Okay, so it says we're live, so let me do a quick check, and then we will kick it off. Let's see. One more time. And we're live. So this is the point where we kick it off. We have a good time. So Steve, welcome to episode 12 of the Practical Magic Show. It's so fun for me to have you here. The Practical Magic Show is where we reverse engineer what looks like magic. So I don't know if you've ever seen a Penn and Teller magic show, but they do this whole big production and then they tell you how they did it. And so for me, magic is operating outside of logic, and it's creating incredible things that are so awesome that they look like magic. And then you'll tell us what that is. And for you today, we're here talking about creativity, but I thought I would also intro you by sharing what I don't think I've even ever told you this story, but years ago, I think it was 2016, I lived in Pittsburgh and I was sitting on the main street at a coffee shop called Butler Street. And I was reading, I think I was reading Right Now, which I have right now. And I remember it thinking, oh man, what if it would just be so crazy if someday I could meet Steve Chandler and I could work with Steve Chandler. And it just sort of led me down this little exploration. And that was the year that you were doing Reinventing Yourself Weekend. I had just come out of this really couple years at a coaching training school, and it was a great program, but their live events were 1,000 people and they had big screens, and whenever the coaches would come in on stage, they'd play this pump up music and everybody would cheer and scream like it was a concert. And I came to Reinventing Yourself Weekend and I was nervous and excited and, ready to meet you in person. And I walk into this hotel room, and it's just this simple hotel room with a white flip chart on stage, and you were standing there drinking coffee. And I was like, what is happening right now? And it was just an awesome moment because it really introduced me, I think, to who you really are to me, which is a master creator, but this awesome, grounded, humble, playful person. And so that's kind of my story of how and then of course I joined ACS. We coached together, and now you're here on the Practical Magic Show. But to me, that journey to this moment, I don't know, it really exemplifies to me who you are in this element of creativity that we're going to be diving into today.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and I'm honored to be your 12th most desirable attendee on this show. So it's nice. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I was always very low tech, and I never dreamed that people would see it as a positive thing. But I'm glad you did.
I did. Because it's refreshing. And, I also wore the shirt that says just do it today, even though it's Nike's symbol. It reminded me of what you often share of doing the doable. And this low tech doing the doable. You just demystify how to create.
Right. That's why I'm surprised I was invited on this great show. And I love your previous episodes. If people haven't seen those, really recommend them. Because I tend to take the magic out of things as opposed to being on a show about magic. So I might not have a lot to say today.
No, you do. You do. And often when I have talked about our work, I say he really takes the magic out, but that's a relief. It's refreshing. And paradoxically, it ends up being quite magical.
Well, I'm glad.
So we're talking about creativity and using your innate gifts of creativity to really create anything and everything. So let's start by, I guess, redefining, or expanding on what creativity actually means to you.
Yeah. And, as you know, I work with clients and people, and their goal is to succeed at something or get better at something. And I noticed over the years, most people, including me for a while, really narrow down the definition of creativity and especially access to creativity. And they think, well, I'm kind of creative in this one little area. I play the flute, which I could identify with because I myself play the kazoo, which is easier to play, but you can also make wonderful sounds. And but they just think of creativity as some little narrow thing, or some special people have it, but I don't have it. And then one day I noticed my grandson, who I think he was two or three at the time, and I saw that he was expressing creativity everywhere he went. If you gave him a pad of paper and some crayons or markers, he would just draw. He wouldn't say, "I'm not that good an artist. So take these markers back. I'm not that good at this." He would just start drawing and painting, and then if you left him alone, he'd be painting on the walls. And okay, not there, back to the pad. And his mother would be cooking, and he'd pull up a chair and start turning the dials and moving the pots around. I can do this, and he could do anything. I'd be playing the piano, and he'd come up and, "I'll play these keys. You keep playing, grandfather." And there was nothing that he could not do or interact with in a very creative way. He'd sing along, he'd do this, and I thought, oh my gosh, he was born with it, but everybody is. And then we get talked out of it. And I remember I was drawing in class one day, and a guy next to me was really good at drawing, and I stopped drawing. I said, "Oh, that's what drawing's like. I'm not going to draw next to him anymore." And I noticed grown-ups do it even more. If I ask an average client or someone who comes in, "What are you not good at?" They go to a whiteboard and they're filling it. "Bring in more whiteboards." And "I'm not good at this. I can't do that. I'm not good at that." And they've been comparing themselves all their lives to other people. They see someone sing on TV and they think, "Oh, I can't do that, so I'm going to stop singing." And I can't. They read a book that's great. "Well, I shouldn't write a book. It won't be. People won't buy my book. They'll just buy this book." So I think the key thing about creativity is to wake up to the fact that it's in their wanting to express. And for most people, it only expresses at night in their dream. So, "Wow, I had the wildest dream." Well, in a way, you created that. "No, it just came to me." So I think that's the most important thing about creativity, is for people to wake up to the fact that they can create. They don't have to just deal with everything. You ask someone, "How are you doing?" "I'm trying to deal with this. I'm trying to deal with that. And that's coming at me. And I'm dealing with this in my life now." And when I'm not dealing with stuff, I'm trying to get through stuff. I'm trying to get through this, and then I'll have to deal with that when I get through this. And so everything is a matter of, I got to get through it. So instead of create.
And I like that you sort of bridge the gap into that space. But I heard one thing before we enter into like this aspect of creating. It sounds like what you're saying is that people confuse creativity with aptitude, or creativity with outcomes, where they're two separate things. Like, "Oh, I couldn't possibly be creative if I'm not good at it." I'm hearing you're saying those things aren't even related.
Right. Yeah, they're not even related. So someone can email me, and in my old world, the way I used to be in life before things turned around, I would react to everything. So instead of creating a response, I would react to the email. "Oh, that's a nasty email. I don't know what to do about that. And how do I react to that?" Or somebody says something, "How do I react to that?" Instead of, what would I like to create given our relationship, given the communication? That question never occurred to me.
And how does it help when you wake up to the fact that creativity is just in you, waiting to be expressed, when we meet these moments in life that we have an opportunity to create instead of react?
Well, the biggest difference there is there seem to be no more problems.
Mm.
So, and this I learned from my own coach, Steve Hardison. He never granted that one of my problems was a problem. He would let me talk about it. He'd let me refer to it as a problem. He would say, tell me about it. He would learn what the situation was. And he would say, okay, given that situation, what would you like to create? And I would say, what do you mean? And he'd say, well, given this situation, you owe all this money to these creditors or whatever it was. What would you like to create that would have that situation no longer be bothersome to you? And it was a whole new inquiry, and he had it for everything. And that started when I started asking myself, what would I like to create given this situation? That got in there after practicing that, it became the first question I would ask. So, for example, during COVID, when it first hit, I had a big 3-day seminar I had to give. Well, no one could come, no one could travel. And so if it had been the old me, I would have said, oh my gosh, what a problem. This is horrible. I don't know what to do. Once again, I'm a victim of life's circumstances. And, but my first thought was, okay, given that we can't travel, what could I create that would be as good or better than us going there?
Mm-hmm.
Now that just became automatic over time. So that was the real difference. Once I saw anyone can create at any moment, it just changed everything.
So it's waking up to this creativity that is just, it's not only in there, it's just aching to be expressed.
Yeah.
When you move it beyond flutes and kazoos into the realm of everything, then it's anyone can create anything at any time.
Yeah, that's right. Now, that's hard to believe if you've spent your entire life conditioning yourself, being conditioned by whomever, your parents or anybody you were influenced by, that life is nothing but problems, and you need to get through. The best thing you can do is get through it. And so I'm trying to get through this, trying to get through that. And if I can get through this, maybe I'll get through that. And then I get to the end of my life and, oh, gee, I'm worried about the dying process. I hope that's not too hard to get through. And it's not much of a life to look back on.
Yeah.
When all I was trying to do was react to things emotionally and get through things.
You know, something I think I'm hearing you say, or maybe just remembering that you've taught, is that one of the barriers to figuring out how to get through something is that we're always trying to get to somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's much harder to deal with something that's in front of you if your whole life happiness is at stake. And it took me, I mean, I'm sure I'll look back on this moment and realize I still know nothing about what I'm talking about. But can you talk a little bit about that too? Because that's another part of creativity that I don't think I even saw until this moment is really important, is that if you're in the future, it's harder to be creative than in the present. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Creativity has to happen in the moment. Everything ever created, any song, was written while they were writing the song. It wasn't written in the future of the song, even if they might have given some thought to the song. It was written in the moment. And if all my life I'm trying to get out of the present moment, I'm trying to get into the now. Like we've got little dogs, and one of them, when you walk him, no matter how fast you go, he's trying to pull faster. There's got to be a better future. It's got to be up here. It's got to be around the block. And we're kind of like that as humans. We're tugging on the leash, trying to get into a better future, holding the enjoyment of life hostage to when I arrive. There'll be a time when I've made it, when I've arrived, and that'll be a good time. But in the meantime, I'm training my brain, my neural pathways, to always want to get into the future. So if I get, I have a house. It's so nice. I used to just rent apartments, and now I have a house. I think I'm not happy yet. I think I need a second home. I need a home by the water. I think something about the water calls to me. And so I'm trying to save for a second home, and then I'll be happy. Or I'm on my 11th wife, and somehow we just don't click. It looked like we were a fit, but it turns out we're not. We're just going separate directions. But someday I'm going to find, it could be wife number 12, and that will be happy. Mm-hmm. And so it's holding your happiness hostage to the future that doesn't even have me consider, how can I create this relationship to just be great and relaxed and wonderful? What could I do? Maybe I could create more of a listening presence instead of being on my phone every time she starts talking. Or so creativity has to be, like you pointed out. This might be new to me too, what you just realized. It really has to occur you have to be comfortable in the present moment, mm-hmm. which takes practice, because we're not taught that. We're taught, somebody says something, oh, you're doing that? Well, then that means someday you could be this. And when you're a kid, oh, hi, I'm really enjoying playing Little League Baseball. Oh, someday you might be able to actually play Major League Baseball. That's what you want to think about. Forget this happiness with what you're doing. That'll make you complacent. Mm-hmm. You got to keep striving and grinding and pushing to get into your future, to get out of the present moment into my own future, which is impossible.
Well, that's so interesting, that example with if you're happy now, you'll be complacent. Because what I actually am hearing you say, or at least what I've experienced from beginning to implement this in my own life, is that being creative in the present moment actually requires the complete opposite of complacency. It requires taking personal responsibility.
Yes. And experimentation with just being in the present moment and being okay with not knowing what I'm going to do about something. And then what most people do is translate that into, I don't know how to. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to do a job interview. I don't know how to. And just calm down and relax and find a way to. You will find a way from a relaxed place, as opposed to just being so upset that I don't have right now what I think I need to be relaxed. Mm-hmm.
And is that so hard simply because we've been conditioned opposite? Or are there other reasons that it's so difficult for people? Because I think my experience of myself listening to this, even a few months ago, prior to working with Devin, would be that I would have been listening to you saying, yeah, I get it. And in fact, like, we had many conversations one-to-one where I know you were saying this to me, and I was like, I know, but it wasn't sinking in. It was, I know I should be present. I know the future isn't real. But people speak about it. They agree with you, but they're not operating from that space.
No, they're afraid of it. And so I once, when I was in the Army, years ago, I had a fear of heights. And I was stationed at a place that was next to the 82nd Airborne. And those guys would jump out of airplanes. And I was talking to a sergeant there one day, and I said, I just couldn't even be in the 82nd Airborne. I can't even stand on a chair to change a light bulb, much less jump out of an airplane. And he said, "Oh, that wouldn't be a problem." And I said, "Well, why would we'd get you out of the plane? If you didn't jump, we get you out of the plane and your first time's up. There's no problem at all being afraid of heights. That doesn't affect, you got your parachute on." And he said, and then after you practice enough times, the fear will go away, and you'll reach a place where you can't wait to go up again and jump. You look forward to it. And in that moment, I saw something that practice is everything. And a pre-existing fear doesn't prevent me from doing a little doable practice in that direction. And if I'm willing to do that little by little, I can do things I used to fear. But I'll never forget his words. "We'd get you out of the plane."
Yeah, I know. That was really, I was like, I think it's clear how that happens.
We don't leave anyone in the plane.
We get you out of the plane.
Yeah, we'll help you with that.
It's great because recently I heard an analogy about skydiving being a great equivalent for commitment, right? You can say, "I'm going skydiving," and you decide to go, but you don't decide to go skydiving when you say you're going to go skydiving. You decide to go skydiving when you jump out of the plane, and there's a lot of steps in between you have to take to make that decision a reality. And now there's this other, like, I'll imagine Steve Chandler in the plane getting out of the plane.
I can't do this. I've got a heart condition. I've got something just came up. I think I've had a stroke. So you need to fly me back to the hospital, and I'll just stay on the plane. And they'd say, "No. Your stroke will be fine when you're on the ground. However, we get you to the ground, we'll take care of you from the ground. And you're going to get on the ground faster if you go this way."
Yes. That's a good point. It's faster anyway.
Yeah. Direct path.
And so here's something else that I think is really interesting when you talk about doing the doable.
Yeah.
And as it relates to creativity. You can't do the doable if you're not present.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like it. So how does creativity expand? How do choices expand when you are being in the present? Because I would imagine there has to be, like, creativity is, what would I like instead of what I'm experiencing? Taking responsibility for it, and then practicing doing it to bring it to life, even if you don't know how. But I'm also wondering too that how does it change when you are present? How does that expand opportunity for creativity?
Well, when I was writing a book, my first book, I had all these thoughts like, who's going to read a book by me? I'm the least successful person I've ever known. And I really was up to that point. I failed at everything I tried. And I was lazy, and some of my family members thought I might not even be human. I was so lazy. I might be a member of the vegetable family instead of the human race. So now I know, and there was a woman who was teaching writing, and she said, just darken the page. Just put a page there. Be present to the page, and just put words on it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because you're not going to send this out to the publisher or anybody. You're just going to be writing. So what you need to do is exactly what my 2-year-old could do. If I said, write a book, okay, he would just start putting little letters or things that he thought were letters on the page. So that's doing the doable. But I have to be, you're right, I have to be present. I have to create space for that.
Mhm.
So I'm going to sit down for the next half hour. I'm going to have this page. And I'm either going to type or write on the page. And I'll write 200 words, and that'll be my writing for today. And tomorrow I'll write more. Now, that's doable for anybody. You don't have to be Hemingway or Mary Oliver or anybody to do that. And that's doing the doable. That is doing something I know I can do. It's not obsessing with the outcome. Like you said earlier, we care too much about outcomes and perfect results, and who would ever read this, and why would this be different than any other book? There are better books on what I'm about to write about. They're much better books, and they're better writers. So I would do people a service more if I just told them what books to read instead of going through all this. Well, let me just tell you the book you should read. So doing the doable is related directly to being present, like you say.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to record this? So, because I want to take some notes.
It's recorded.
I'm not taking notes now because I'm supposed to be the one being interviewed.
That's right.
With the wisdom.
Yep.
I know you're a coach and a good one. Do you ever catch yourself thinking when you make a recommendation to your client or present an option, thinking, I got to remember that for myself?
Yes. Only always.
Yeah.
So, you know what I would love to hear more, you talk more about, it's when you talk about doing the doable and sitting down and writing the 200 words on a page, it's so simple. It's so simple. And it doesn't feel like the same, because what I've experienced in my clients is a couple of things. Either I work with people who are just obsessive and do way too much, but it's kind of like the overdoing with no space or intuition, or they're on the other end of the spectrum where it's like, I just can't get myself motivated into action. But the energy that seems to come through both is just this hardcore, no pain, no gain, this like really hardcore discipline culture. And it seems like what you are talking about puts you at the same outcome, but doesn't come through that same energy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I had to leave self-discipline out of the equation, or else I would never do anything, because I didn't think I had any. So I had to find ways to get things done that didn't require fierce self-discipline to do them. And so I had to think my way around things for a while until it dawned on me, after doing a lot of things that way, the undisciplined, lack of discipline, lack of motivation, lack of talent, all the things that achievers seem to have, I saw that discipline began to arise over time on its own.
Mm.
Especially when the thought, I don't have any, went away, because I figured out ways that I can get by without, I don't need any ferocious, dedicated, single-minded self-discipline. I don't need that. All I need is to create what I want to create. Mm. And I think both ends of the spectrum, like you talked about, they're both victims of really extreme self-consciousness, a really big I, me, mine, what about me? Like a so-called shy person is suffering from the same thing as the outgoing narcissistic. I've arrived, I'm in the room, play the Rocky music. Put pictures of me up there. I'm going to teach you everything. It's all coming from I. But when I would drop that, there isn't any I here that I respect or can count on. So I'm going to not even think that way, or I'll never do anything. I began to think, well, where should I put my focus? So I would put it on who might read this and benefit from it. So I'm going to pretend I'm writing this book like I'm writing an email to a friend who's really hurting, really depressed or discouraged. And I don't care how flowery the writing is or anything. I just want to give them some support. And I started thinking about paramedics. Now, they arrive at a scene and they've been trained. They know what to do. Someone's having a heart attack. They don't kneel down at the person having a heart attack and say, let me tell, before we start, and I know you're hurting, I'm not oblivious to that. Before we start, let me tell you a little about me and where I've been trained and some of the great things I've done the past week. I saved a guy who had a boa constrictor, and meanwhile, this guy's losing his life on the ground. They just run in and their whole focus is, how do I help this person? How do I relax them? How do I get them out of pain and panic? How do I get them on the ambulance so we can help? And when the focus is, when I'm not self-conscious, then the fear goes away. Mm-hmm. And then when the fear just goes away on its own, it's not because I'm a courageous person. Mm-hmm. It's because I'm doing the doable.
I really like that. You kind of bring it back to your 2-year-old grandson. He doesn't have self-consciousness around. No. And it's kind of a different expression of the same thing, which is creativity is not about you.
No, not really.
It's not about your skill. It's not about your aptitude.
Right.
It's about your outlet. You have it, and it's not really about yours to use.
That's really true. And when you hear the great songwriters, and they say that song, I don't know where that song came from. That song just came through me. And the great poets and the great jazz musicians, I don't know what I'm going to play. And it's not really me playing. And I used to hear that and say, yeah, that sounds real humble and mystical. You're simultaneously spiritual and humble when you say that. But when you practice it for a while, after a while, you get into the flow when you're not self-conscious. Mm-hmm. And if I'm writing a book or a song, I used to write songs for a living, and I need to write a big hit. I'm not making enough money. What would be a hit song? And it was terrible. Mm-hmm. And then I just write one from a personal experience, one of my many, many breakups, because no one wanted to ever stay with me more than a couple of weeks because they knew I was the greatest non-achiever they'd ever met, and the future looked horrible. And so it was easy for me to write breakup songs and sad songs, and I would just let the experience hit the page, and then those were the ones that got recorded by people and actually made us money, not the ones where I have to write a good book, I have to write a hit, I have to give a good speech, it has to be great. And that's just me. I want approval. I want admiration. And as you know, we've worked on some of the same things for our profession. The more you focus on making a difference and creating something that helps people, the better it goes. Mm-hmm. And the more you try to be impressive, exaggeration on me, the people don't even call back. Why didn't they call back? I hit it out of the park. I was amazing. I gave them a powerful coaching session, and but that's not what they wanted. They wanted a sense of connection. They wanted to be understood. And you're right. The 2-year-old, he would have to pause and think if you asked him what his name was. What's your name? And he's painting Jude. That's what they tell me.
You know what I'm loving so much about this? I think often about, you say, the more I think about myself, the worse my life gets.
Yeah.
Which is 100% true. But I sort of manipulated that internally in my head when I first heard you saying it. Okay, so if I want my life to be better, I need to think about other people and that will get me what I want. And it was like the same iteration of it's all
Yeah.
about me anyway. But I'm
Yeah.
comparing two different things. One is, and I want to really hone in on the latter for the kind of final question, but one is when you don't make it about you, your life feels better. You have less self-consciousness. You're open to more creativity. You are more willing to just try stuff because your whole identity is not at stake.
That's right. You're not contracted. You're expanded, and it just feels wonderful.
Which makes it easier to be in the now.
Yeah. So the more every time I think about me, the personality, it contracts me and separates me from others, which is not a good feeling. Contraction. Women have a different relationship to that word, but they know what it means. You had a child recently. It's not fun, from what I hear.
It's not.
Okay? Now here's a tip to men. This was our last question, right? You told me to remember that.
No, it's like a half question, but yeah, go ahead. We knew we were going to extend it at the final question anyway, so.
Okay, I want to be helpful to the men watching. I was recently hospitalized for some chest pain that didn't turn out to be super serious, but it was really painful at the time. Here's a tip. If you ever have pain and you're in a hospital and women are helping you and you want the morphine or whatever you're hoping to get, do not refer to your pain as worse than childbirth. Because I didn't see that nurse for a long time after I tried to express how much pain I was in.
Yeah. I can understand that.
That's a usable tip.
It actually is a usable tip because I can imagine that you probably were kept waiting for a while.
I was kept waiting for a long time, and it was really a great teaching moment for me because I kept reflecting on what did I say?
How did I create this?
And what do I never want to say again?
Next time you can say, I know this is nothing, but what would be great?
Yeah, this is nothing. I'm a hypochondriac. I get it. And you're busy. Take care of the people who have real problems, please.
That's right. So I guess the real last question then is, I do want to spend a little time on, we just sort of touched on it briefly, but because there is like, you can demystify and take the magic out by talking about doing the doable, but that does create pretty remarkable results. But it's also true that when you do take yourself out of it, and when you do recognize that creativity is in everyone and there for you to use, but not all about you, you do create you can anyway, create some pretty remarkable things pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
And clients who thought I'm not creative, my sister's creative, but I'm not. Once they wake up to the truth that they are, and they amaze themselves, and that's where the word magic comes in. To me, magic is something that is surprisingly delightful, or delightfully surprising. Both of them occur in magic. Like, wow, how'd that happen? Like Magic Johnson, they called him Magic because he did things on the court that, how did he do that? How do you do that? But he did it by doing the doable. He got there after doing versions of it over the years, over and over and over. And then now when we see him, it's like, wow. And anyone who's willing to do the doable, now they're repeating and practicing, and the skill of it increases. I don't have to go from unskillful to highly skillful, which is what people want to do. I want to be great at that. And then they sit down at the piano and say, it's never going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because they won't be in the moment with the piano keys. They're thinking of other players who are better, and they give up.
It actually reminds me of delightfully surprising is such an incredible definition of magic. Which makes you completely magic because you are always delightfully surprising and surprisingly delightful. But I was doing a workout a couple of weeks ago, and I had been for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months in the same workout program, and it's very much in alignment. It's the same 4 workouts every week, basically indefinitely. He's like, if you really want to change it at some point, you can, but you don't need to because you just keep increasing weight and you just keep doing it. And I noticed after about 4 months, I had this experience where you're supposed to work to failure. And I felt, oh, this is what it really means to work to failure. And it was delightfully surprising. And I love that because, and then it inspired me to keep going. And it's these moments where I think, when you look at the word enlightenment, sometimes it's referred to as a happy accident. You're doing all this work, all this meditation, all these self practices, and then you just out of the blue, seemingly unrelated, you have this like epiphany moment, and it sort of sounds like that's what you surprisingly and delightfully hit these new levels. And to everything else, it's like magic.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. You should do your own show.
I should. Would you like to be on it? So thank you, Steve, so much for being here.
You're very welcome.
Who may not know you, where can they find you? How can people connect with you?
Now, why would I want them to find me?
Maybe you don't.
Well, they go on my website, and it's stevechandler.com. That was a recommended name for it, which I thought was brilliant. Because it has me remember, and then you can find out whatever I'm doing. On that website.
That's perfect. If you haven't, you must read all of Steve's books. They're all amazing. And your new book, How to Get Clients, has just come out.
Yes, it has.
I'm excited to read that. So
I haven't read it yet, but I've got some good feedback.
Heard it's pretty good. Well, thanks a ton. It's been so fun having you here. And that's it. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, Vanessa.